Petrol is explosive. Let's find out exactly how it propels an engine.
When is a better time to take apart a mini combustion engine? You may have noticed that fire doesn't look like that's going to cause an explosion, but I'll explain how that pushes the piston through the cylinder to get propulsion. We're hopefully going to adapt it slightly so it can propel a bicycle. I'm going to take this over to the workshop now so we can see what's inside.
So we have the objective and we have the engine.
It's a 25cc two-stroke engine. It's been left out, and as you can see, it's quite corroded up on the centrifugal clutch here. When the engine's turning, it's not actually mechanically connected to what it's driving. This means that if we connect it to a bicycle, when the bicycle wheel isn't turning, the engine can actually turn. When this rotates, the springs on here at about 3000 RPM open up and engages the clutch with what it's driving. So you can see here, there's a cylindrical drum that this slots into. Now, when I took this apart, this wasn't actually rotating at all, whereas now I've managed to get it to rotate freely by just applying some oil in there and giving a bit of a force. When we convert this into a bicycle engine, we're going to have to cut this off.
If you enjoy adventurous content, remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons to avoid missing out on our next projects.
We're going to have to cut this off and weld on a sprocket of some description which we can attach the chain to drive the bicycle wheel. Oh, it's loose anyway, that's handy because I already loosened it. We're going to give that a nice little clean up, make that look good as new, hopefully. So now that we've cleaned the spark plug, we can rest it on the engine and see if we get a spark. Great. You have a piston which goes up and down inside a cylinder. Now, when petrol and air are injected inside the cylinder head, there's a mini explosion. Now that forces down the piston, and the piston is attached to a conrod. The conrod rotates the crankshaft. So I will show you. Okay, and that should slot off there. So that's handy. This as well. Loosen. When I showed you the flame, it's hard to see how that would be explosive. It's when petrol and air become a gas inside a sealed space that it becomes more explosive. I will demonstrate that to you later in the video. We'll make a little rocket. Okay. So now we can undo the cylinder head. Oh, wonderful. Let's see if we can remove that from there. Yes. So that's the cylinder head removed, and that leaves the piston with the conrod attached to the crankshaft inside. Now you can see it's going up and down inside, and you can see how that's connected. That little gasket's not looking too healthy, is it? Get a new one of those. So when that forces the explosion down, you'll see inside the piston is attached to the crankshaft with a conrod. So when there's an explosion above the piston, this pushes the piston down and rotates the crankshaft. So the conrod is moving up and down as the piston goes up and down. When you see a tiny little flame, petrol burning, it's hard to imagine how that can create an explosion. It's when it's in a sealed combustion chamber. So when the cylinder head is on top of the engine and covering the piston, and the spark plug is inside there, this becomes a sealed chamber. This means energy from the combustion of the petrol creates more of an explosion rather than just a flame. Now the way that I can simulate that to you is with this lovely vehicle we have here. Attached to what I'm calling a rocket. So what we do is we put a little bit of fuel inside our rocket, and you have to be careful doing this. We put a lid on it with a tiny hole in it, and we allow the fuel in there to mix with the air. Our little car wow. Wow. That is what we call a rocket. Now we've got to get back to this little engine. Imagine that little explosion taking place in there and pushing down this piston which rotates the crankshaft. So hopefully that explains to you exactly how it works. So this seems a lot cleaner now. We're going to try and put this gasket back together as best we can, but I can't really see that this is doing an awful lot anymore. Nicely broken, this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this liquid gasket. Just put this around, which should work in the meantime. It's a mess, isn't it? Now there is a particular position where this piston ring needs to be, and it enables it to close up, and there's a particular little notch in there it can close up to. If this open bit isn't over that, it won't close up, and therefore it wouldn't be able to slot in to here. Okay, I wouldn't normally use a silicone gasket, but as I have it and I don't have another gasket, then ultimately that's all I had the option to do. So don't shoot me in the comments, because it will work. Okay, so there's one. You can see the piston moving up and down. That's a lot cleaner now. On there. So we're all back together, which is rather good. So now in theory, we should have everything we need for this engine to start. So we have some petrol, which has been mixed up with some correct ratio of oil, as this is a two-stroke engine, so it needs oil and petrol mixed together because it doesn't have an oil reservoir and it lubricates the engine itself. Yeah, that's flowing.
There was a little bit of trouble getting it started, but eventually
This screw needed some adjustment, because I think realistically it's because the throttle needed a bit more airflow. So you could see when we apply the throttle and this has more revolutions, RPM, that the centrifugal clutch opens up a bit more, and that in turn will drive this, which will drive the sprocket, which will drive the bicycle wheel. Excellent, it's working!
So there we have it, a fully functioning 25cc engine from a strimmer, ready to adapt and attach to a bicycle, obviously.